Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Today, we are honored to welcome Lisa Richter to Speak Up Queen. So, Lisa, welcome. I am just going to start with what was the most challenging limiting belief you had to overcome, and how did breaking free from it help you reclaim your voice?
Oh gosh, that's a really great question. So, um, I'm just making my notes so I don't forget the whole question. Um, the most self-limiting belief was that my voice didn't matter. It was that how I thought and what I said was less than. It wasn't appropriate or necessary in circumstances and situations. And so that was definitely the most self-limiting belief that I've had. And how I reclaim that, well, burnout made me reclaim it. In the middle of 2020, I was in burnout and I had no choice but to ask for help. And through getting connected with a person that helped me reconnect with myself, my true self, and find my voice again, and just let go of all that baggage of what everyone was telling me I needed to be, and just to trust my instinct. That's how I reclaimed it. But it was through a lot of hard work and finally giving myself permission to do the work, to let go of the things that I weren't in my control and that weren't serving me and that were just really holding me back.
It is actually so scary to know that we take on everyone's opinions. We don't believe in ourselves because we were told from a young age that you are not good enough. No one will believe you. And we really, it is like spurring on us, and it is like just scary how our words can have power over us. But then there's this amazing thing that we can peel off these layers and we can heal. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's amazing. Can you share a moment when someone's words or actions made you feel small and how you found the strength to rise above it?
Oh gosh, that's a harder one to answer, Marika. There's a lot of moments where words and actions of others made me feel small, especially being a neurodivergent individual and um, my voice just disappearing when I was met with um, that feeling of feeling small. Um, Rise above it. I think the one conversation, the one area that I would say I can talk about that is after I did a lot of this work and I was in conversations with family and their reaction to a specific discussion topic landed on me like it was my fault and I was told don't play the victim. And because I had done so much work, I was able to stop and pause and recognize I was yelling, so it wasn't very calm, but I was able to recognize that I wasn't the one playing the victim. The person I was speaking with was the one playing the victim. And yet they were projecting it on me. And so I used my voice and I stood my ground and I responded in that way that I'm not the victim. I'm not the one that made the phone call. I'm not the one that brought up this situation that you're asking me to solve that I have no experience or expertise to solve. It's not mine to solve. And I'm not a victim. I'm just telling you that I can't answer your question. And that was a really pivotal moment for me because that's something that I would have just gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and shut down. And I no longer shut down. So that's an example.
Oh wow. Well, good on you. I love it when
Yeah.
women start knowing their their worth and their boundaries, and they are finding their voice to speak up. I wish that I could be a fly on the wall to see how each one of you are reclaiming your crown. It's just the most powerful moment in history when a woman is knowing her voice, knowing her worth, and she is really reclaiming her crown to thrive. So I am really proud of you. And
Thank you.
what safety resources, spaces, or tools have been most impactful for your healing journey?
A couple of things. So I would say safety is my closest friends. My best friend has been my best friend for over 45 years. And so my whole life. And so and my spouse and some others that I'm very, very close to are the safety space where after burnout, I now know that I can ask for help and I can be supported and I can use my voice, and that's okay. And so there's some of my safety. And I can say, I can't take one of the kids somewhere today. I need you to do that. Whereas before I would just do it and then I would get frustrated. And so, and then my spouse would say, well, why didn't you just ask me? And it was in burnout that I recognized, and through the work with my therapist, you need to use your voice. People can't read your mind, and I was always the one that said I'm not a mind reader, but I was expecting others to read my mind. So knowing that I had the safe people in the safe space, resources. My talk therapist, she's an amazing resource for me, and I also do cranial sacral therapy and sometimes Reiki and acupuncture and all of those people. And my primary doctor, they're all safe spaces for me and resources that help me stay grounded and allow me to continue to keep my voice instead of having to try to reclaim it again. And then tools, going for a walk, doing grounding outside when it's not freezing and standing outside on the grass and just doing deep breaths. Sometimes a quick mindfulness or meditation, visualization, journaling, and um, coloring in mandalas. I did that for my younger son who has anxiety, and then I found that it was such a relief for me, not only because I was just coloring and not having to be mindful about it, but also just the pen to paper that my therapist explained. It changes the way your brain thinks and it takes you out of trauma mode and into more of a relaxed state. And so those are the tools that have supported me in continuing to, as you were saying, be powerful, reclaim my worth, and be able to just stand up and speak my truth and bounce back from it without going backwards.
um, it's always I always say my husband is my safety resource. He and my son, they know when I am overwhelming, because when I'm burning myself out or overwhelmed, my voice starts getting louder. Like
Mm,
I've told my husband, when I have been pressing down and I'm like, okay, pretending to be okay with the situation. And sometimes we still go back. We are not perfect. We are still making mistakes on this healing journey. And I'm like, when I start to fight, just know that there is something, I am overwhelmed. I
mhm.
don't feel safe in my body. So these are the toolkits. You hug me for 20 seconds. You tell me to breathe, because at that mindset, at that stage, I don't know, I don't want to hear anything. Just do those two things.
Right.
And my son is also, I teach my son to do the same, so that when he is feeling overwhelmed, he knows, Mom, I want him to be able to say, Mom, I'm overwhelmed. Can you hug me?
Mhm.
Or I can see it and I can just hug him. But
Yeah.
that is something that we were not, as kids, we weren't taught these things. We didn't,
No,
we,
absolutely.
it was just like,
I have
yeah.
I have two neurodivergent boys, and so I help to teach them the same things, that it's okay to pause. And they know me and they're my safety, but sometimes they're also my triggers, as well as with my spouse, right? Like you said, it's not perfect, but we're helping one another be better and do better because we're beginning to know better.
Yeah. It's just amazing how we are not just healing ourselves, but we are making a pathway and leaving a legacy for our children
Mhm.
to have a little bit a better toolkit in life for when life is going to happen, because I can't protect my son from ever getting hurt or anything like that, but I'm sure as hell going to make sure he's got the toolkit to fight and to make sure he is ready for whatever comes his way. So yeah, it's just amazing how when you make that decision to heal for yourself, first just heal for
Mhm.
yourself, not for your children, not for your family or your husband, heal for yourself. When you start healing for yourself, everything just falls into place, and then it's just amazing things really happen. And it's not perfect, and it's messy, but it is so damn worth it, really.
That's so true. I just wrote that down and circled it. The decision to heal for yourself, everything falls into place. It's messy, but it's worth it. So very true on so many levels.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's powerful.
Thank you. What was the first step you took to move, not to move, yeah, to move from feeling silence to finding your voice, and how did that step change your life?
That goes back to when I was in burnout because I was spiraling and spiraling and losing my voice more and more and more. And I kept putting myself in situations where I was a fixer. And I didn't realize until in burnout, and I was gifted the name of a therapist who's been an amazing partner for me, not just a therapist, but really a thought partner, and helping me find my voice again. But it was, see, I didn't write it down. I just lost your question. It was, um,
You,
ask me the question again.
you want,
Sorry.
that's okay. We are all amazing. So let's just read it again. What was the first step you took to move from feeling silenced to finding your voice, and how did that step change your life?
Okay, got it. Thank you. So it was my therapist, and it was getting vulnerable, giving myself permission to actually start to share not just the surface layers of what I had been through my life, my perspective, how I was feeling, how I was made to feel, whether it was intentional or not, those feelings were real. Um, and what it did was allow me to continue to unpack that more and more. And as I unpacked it and looked at my younger self and got validation that I shouldn't have been put in certain positions, um, but then also given the chance to be empowered to share what was happening, doing that was the first step in changing my life because I started to trust my gut. I realized that the person I was working with was really there just to listen. And she helped me recognize that where I thought I was caregiving, I was actually in a fawning state for most of my life. So I was people pleasing instead of actually caregiving, which is a survival mechanism and it's a trauma response, not what I thought I was doing was not what I was actually doing. And I was harming myself more than I was helping others by doing that. And so that I would say was that first step was finally giving myself permission to open up to somebody.
Oh, wow. You said it's so beautiful that it is people's pleasing is actually harming yourself, and it's just a coping mechanism. I never thought about it that way. So that is like that makes more sense. That makes really more sense. So yeah. The next question. What's one powerful lesson you've learned about self-worth? And how do you carry it with you as you continue to grow and inspire others?
You can't truly help others until you recognize your own self-worth. And so how I carry that with me is consistently going back to supporting myself when I need a break. Like couple weeks ago, I went up to see my best friend for 4 days. And in past, I would have coordinated everyone else's things. I would have asked permission. I would have gone through all these stages. And instead I put it on the calendar. And my husband said, "Are you going? Are you taking one of the kids?" And I said, "Nope." Now they're high schoolers, but typically my younger son likes to go. And I said, "No, just me and 4 days with my best friend." And it was as my best friend would call it, the best weekend ever. Like it was just the most amazing thing. We both have children, and it's been many, many years, probably it's definitely been over 15 years since the two of us have done something like that.
Mm.
And it was just incredible. And so, how I carry it forward to inspire others, my children, hopefully even my spouse and my friends and my clients, is by giving myself permission to put myself first. Because then I know that I'm treating myself like I would treat my friends, and looking in the mirror and treating yourself like you would treat others is a really hard thing to do. But I try to do it because without talking to yourself in a kind way, it spirals backwards. And so giving yourself the respect and the permission to treat yourself like you treat others is that lesson.
Oh, I love it. Yes, I love it. I don't even know if I would have ever. I do have a best friend in South Africa, and I do have a best friend now. It took me 5 years to actually find a best friend because when you're on your healing journey, you really really do start learning that your five people that you are surrounding with, I was like mindful. I was like, I do like you and I do love you, but you can't be my top five. It was like
Yeah,
you have to choose so carefully and to just I think it would be amazing if I could go for 4 days without my son. He's also a teenager, but just doing something for myself. Well, I think that is something that I will definitely put on my bucket list because it's just like, oh, it sounds so amazing. A girls' night or a girls' weekend. I have never experienced that, and I think that is something that needs to be on a bucket list.
absolutely. And I will tell you, I have um, two other friends that are also best friends of mine. Not my oldest and dearest best friend, but I've been very close to since high school, and my college roommate and I are still very close. And so, there's something about, I always say you can have a lot of acquaintances, and people always say you have a lot of friends. And I said, no, my friends that I can truly count on, I can count on one hand, maybe a hand and a half. I know a lot of people, but I've also had to let go of a lot of people in my healing journey and my learning journey and all of those things. And one of the things I will say is um, my best friend from high school, she always has traveled. And she had said to me, "You've got to start doing these things on your own." And I would always be jealous of her. But then I realized I could do it too. I just wasn't giving myself permission to. And then we brought our other best friend from high school along with us on a trip last year. And it was actually earlier this year, and it ended up being wonderful. It was the first time the three of us had done anything together outside of the home with all of us, having kids and being parents. And it really is, it's life changing. It really is. And I let my clients guide me sometimes. Like a lot of my clients are parents, and they teach me how much and how important it is to give time for yourself.
I love it.
So definitely put it high on your bucket list
Yes,
because you really need to make it happen.
definitely. That's something that I'm really gonna do. Um, the next one. If you could tell your 17-year-old self one thing, what would it be and why?
I would say that it would be stand my ground and trust my gut, no matter how long it takes for me to explain it to someone that doesn't get it. So, um, that would be it. It would be stand your ground and trust your gut because your tuition is on. And even though you can't articulate what it is that you're trying to explain to somebody else, whether they don't want to understand it or they just can't understand it, it doesn't mean it's not real. And that would have put me on a totally different path throughout my entire college and young adult life. I wouldn't maybe be where I am today, getting to do what I love doing every day if I had done that. But if I could go back and tell my 17-year-old self something, that would be it.
Oh, I love it. It is just amazing how we have been made. The Lord just knew how to use our guts. When your gut is screaming, there's a reason why your body is telling you you're not safe. Um,
Mhm.
and sometimes we do suppress that until that inner child is really screaming, "Hi, I'm here, help. Stop doing what you're doing." Yeah, it's just amazing how we authentically are made. That's just something that is really always close to my heart to know that, especially when you have been a survivor of abuse and you have really took on everyone's opinion, and just knowing now that, oh, I am actually worth it. I can look myself in the mirror, butt naked. I love every inch of my body, every cell of my body. And to come at that stage is really a powerful thing as a woman, because you're a
Mhm.
mom, your body is changing, everything is changing. But to still
Yes.
embrace that, um, and to learn how to protect yourself and listen to your body. I mean, Queen, you've already have all the answers. You just need to take off the layers of other people's opinions, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you will find out that you are such an amazing human being. Like, oh,
Well, it's interesting too that you say it because, some people say, well, if it wasn't abuse from like a sexual abuse, if it was mental or it was somebody says it was unintentional or it was gaslighting or it was workplace bullying. And, the world today still sometimes will say, stop whining, it's too much. Or, people have gotten too soft. I say there's a happy medium and there's an in between because like for me, especially I'll use my part of my work life as an example. There was a lot of gaslighting and a lot of manipulation, a lot of loss of sense of self while I was in corporate. And I was never believed, not even by female leaders. And yet when I left, um, the truth came out. And I never got an apology, and that took a long time. But then working on myself and getting my sense of self-worth and realizing it wasn't my fault. And even if I go back to my younger life, like around the 17, I was screaming for help, but the adults in my life, again, maybe unintentionally, they weren't there to help me. And that created also trauma and the lack of not feeling safe or not being listened to. And so there's a lot of different things. And then even earlier than that, the people pleasing, go in and fix this. And I've thought that's my job is I'm the fixer. And so when you think about trauma, it's not just when it's sexual. There's a lot of there's mental, there's emotional, there's a lot of different ways that these things show up, and a lot of times we don't know. And it's not to me about placing blame on someone else when you recognize it. It's just about taking control of the healing journey for yourself because you can't go back and change it. And you can't fix somebody that doesn't want to be fixed, but you can choose if you still want them in your life and at what cost or with what parameters.
Definitely. Like, oh, that is really so true. The next question. How do you set boundaries to protect your energy and peace? And what have you learned from this practice?
I let my gut drive my boundaries. And if I can go back to my 3-year-old self, I knew it. I knew it back then. And this is a lot from the work I've done with my therapist. But um, the moment she was able to connect the dots for me with my instinct always being spot on, because I feel everything, even as we were talking through, you kind of rattled off some of the questions early on, just so my anxiety would be a little calmer and my ADHD brain could kind of like slow down. I I feel everything. And I was told so often that what I was feeling and thinking wasn't real that I stopped trusting it. And that is something that my therapist has really helped me pull back out is boundaries. And boundaries come for me from that intuition, that gut instinct. And so when I feel, I pause and I let myself move through it, because pausing gives me the space to keep almost like have that bubble around me where I can expand it or I can contract it, but no one's going to pop it ever again. And so that's what allows me to keep that peace and to help my kids recognize those boundaries. The thing I'm most proud of as a parent is that my boys are unconditionally and unapologetically themselves. And they are both neurodivergent and they both have different things, but and they show up differently and they have different personalities, but boy, they are who they are and they're okay with it even when other people aren't. And I feel like that's the best thing I've ever done, and probably the best thing I'll ever do for my boys is to help them understand that it's okay to just be who they are. And if it's their gut instinct, you just trust it.
This is, oh, um, yeah, it's just amazing that we can learn our children. We've got the second chance to, or not the second chance, but we can learn from all our what happened to us as children and think, and we can make sure that, and it's sometimes hard, it's really sometimes hard to not sound like your mother or sound like your father, and to rewire that your brain to say, this is not me, I'm not them. I will let my son speak up. I will let him be himself. And it's not rude. Um, I know people might think that if he is voicing that something is not right, he must
Mhm.
still do it in a respectful way. But I'm gonna let him speak. I'm not gonna make him
Mhm.
silent, because then 30 years later he's gonna be in the exact same spot than me. And no, no. I
Absolutely.
don't want him to.
Absolutely right. And you're right, it's not a second chance. It is a chance though to pay it forward and to, like you said earlier, give that pathway and legacy for our children. You mentioned that, I wrote it down because I thought that was a really great statement. And we get to do that, and that's a gift. And we can choose to move with that gift or we can choose to ignore it. But either way, we're making a decision and it will have a consequence.
How do you stay grounded when challenges come up now compared to before?
So in past, I would just hold them in. So everything just was in me. And when I went into burnout, probably for a year, maybe even 2 years before, off and on, I would say I feel like I'm a fraying rubber band. I would also be calm and calm and calm and calm, and then I would just implode. And my oldest son would always know when there was something really wrong because I would keep it together and keep it together until I couldn't anymore. And so I thought I was keeping myself grounded, but I really wasn't. I was losing myself more and more, and I was getting more and more frustrated. So the challenges were suppressed, and I just kept moving in survival mode, right? The people pleaser, the survival mode. I was constantly in survival mode. Now I share what's on my mind. I sometimes don't share anything because it's better just to walk away and let it go. Um, I will challenge situations when it makes sense, but I will also give myself time to process and speak up because if I don't share how I'm feeling, I now have learned shame on me because somebody else won't ever understand how I'm feeling. But I was silenced for so long with how I felt and told it was wrong and you don't think that way that I just didn't do it. I just kept moving. But I know now that that doesn't help anyone. So that's how I stay grounded and deal with those challenges now.
It's like seriously that is oh, I almost started talking to you in Afrikaans right now. Oh my word. Sorry.
It's very early there, so I'm not surprised.
They were like, but yeah, it is really to just pause and voice it out and not acknowledging when you are actually in burnout stage. Um, because your gut is like also again telling you, Marika, you're not breathing enough, and you can feel you're tense all the time.
Hmm.
You start having back pain and a slight headache, and it's just amazing how your body is telling you stop. You are overdoing it, girl. Stop a
Hmm.
little bit, take a step back, pause, and go
Yeah.
again. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's amazing.
That's the other thing I think I give myself permission to pause. You said pause. Um, in the past, I never stopped. I was like the Energizer Bunny until I wasn't, and I would just be exhausted. Now I give myself permission. I work down in the basement. I have a couch here. I have a couch over there. I have a TV down here, and I will stop. Like some days, like the last couple of days, things were super busy. I wanted to get up, but I knew if I got up and relaxed, I wouldn't get back into work mode. So I do that on the days I need to, but the days that I have a break, I will go and just sit there and give myself permission to watch a show, to play a game on my phone and not feel bad about it. And when I was in corporate, I would say, oh, I should take up smoking because then I get a break.
Yes.
But when I look back on it now, I realize I chose not to go on those walk breaks. I chose not to go to lunch. It was a choice. And I was doing what I thought was appropriate and what the corporations that wanted me working 60 hours wanted me doing. And now I work less and I get more accomplished in a lot less time. And I have more energy and I'm happier.
Oh, it is you are really putting a nail or a hammer on the nail. I think it's the same thing.
Hammer
But
on the nail. That's right. I mean, nail. Yeah, hammer on the nail. That's right.
um like starting this podcast, I just put out it there that I'm gonna start recording at 4 o'clock in the morning, and my last interview is 9 o'clock at night. So then I'm going to bed at say 10:30, 11 o'clock. But I do realize in the last 3 weeks that my body doesn't like 5 to 6 hours of sleep at all. It doesn't like it. So yesterday I was like, I did the recording at 4 o'clock and I published it and I went back to bed and I just lay down flat and just let my body rest. Between all the interviews yesterday, every 30 minutes I went back to bed, climbing to my bed, and just rest. And I was like, it actually feels good to just put myself a little bit more. No one is chasing me. No one is doing anything for me. Yes, my mission is powerful, and it is keeping me focused and energized, but I do need to take care of myself because if the 3 weeks is gonna be over, we are gonna go on holiday for 2 week for a week. I don't want to be tired. I don't want to be like I don't want to do anything because I'm too tired with my family. So
Right.
I was like yesterday, I was like, no, you are going to take a step back and you need to rest because at the end of the day, no one is gonna give you like a statue or build you a statue if you don't go on lunch or if you do those things. That it's just not happening. So
You're so right. Yeah. So I celebrate you for recognizing it and giving yourself permission to do what your body needed. And that's such an important lesson that I've learned over time. Listen to your body. It tells you things.
definitely. How do you define thriving today, and what mindset shifts or practices help you embrace that definition?
Well, I mean, I describe thriving today what I used to describe as surviving. To me, what I thought was thriving was really just surviving. It was working as hard as I could for as many hours as I could, climbing the corporate ladder, doing as much work and as many times as I could, and just moving, 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 moving. And the more I moved, the more I did. Now, as an elite level gymnast growing up, I did do that. I was always moving, but I realized that I was actually stopping and pausing because we'd jog around the floor mat, then we would stretch, and then we would do a handstand, and then a cartwheel, then a back bend, and then we would slowly go into, and then we'd go to each event, and we'd also do drills, and then we would do part of a routine, and then a full routine. And so in those years, we were always going slow to go fast, but along the way, I lost that sense of reality. Um, and so when I moved into more of adult life, I was really truly just always in survival because I didn't have the gymnastics to keep me grounded in those boundaries. So thriving to me is doing what feels right, what's in line with my life's purpose, what follows my passion, and what guides me to do what I want to do in a way that allows me to help others, help themselves. And at the end of the day, I reap financial benefit from it, but I get to be me and I get to do things on my terms with people that I love and appreciate and that appreciate and respect me as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. The last question. What made you decide to be featured on Speak Up Queen? And how does it feel knowing that there's a safe space for women to share their stories and inspire others?
Okay, let's see. Well, I liked what you had put out there, the way that you were putting yourself out there to inspire others and to give women a safe space to be able to share their stories, to share their truth, and to then push it out on a bigger platform. That's and I describe myself as a serial podcast guest. I don't have a podcast. I am very intentional about the podcast that I go on, and yours really spoke to me because empowering others that have been through things like I have or haven't been through what I have, but can gain something from hearing what I've been through and meeting people like you who are providing that safe space to do that and empowering others to just really stand in their voice and their power. Um, that's what it's all about. And so how do I feel now that I've been on it? It's wonderful. I feel like I've gained another person that is one of my people. We're very different. We live in very different parts of the world. We're probably in very different places in our journeys, both as a person and as a parent. Yet the fact that we are both women and that we're empowering people and that we have a story to share has brought us together. And whether we talk once in the next year, 6 times, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be here now. And I'm always going to remember what we've talked about here. And if I've helped one person help themselves, then I feel like it was worth every moment of our conversation today.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And it is just amazing how we can. I've got one of my friends that I still didn't, I don't know on which Zoom meeting we've met. We don't even know which year we met, but we are like, sometimes a year goes by and we don't talk, but it is like you say, it is, we can feel energy going really thousands of kilos away. We can still feel this energy and this connection. And it is just chicken pox again. It is just amazing how amazing it is when women comes together and empower each other. We are all on different journeys, and just knowing that there's no competition in this space. We are all queens. We are, if especially if you are knowing your worth and you're showing up as your authentic self, then competition is something like, nah, we don't do this here. It is like empowering. It is like you know your worth and you celebrate other queens' worth also. I mean, it is just, it's just another level of gratefulness for me personally to be surrounded by women. I mean, when I was a little girl, Princess Diana was my hero. She was my hero. She was always kind. She was always giving. And I said, one day I want to be like her. Just give and help other people. And that was my mentor when I was a 6-year-old child. That was the woman that I was looking up to. And
Mhm.
leaving when we left South Africa on my 30th birthday, I needed to start being in rooms with mentors and people that I was looking up to. And so I
Mhm.
really hope that these women, these listeners knows that we are ordinary people. We are really just women who decided, you know what, enough is enough. I am done feeling like crap. I am done feeling like Cinderella. I am done. I want to be the queen. And it's just one decision. You have one decision to make, and not, sorry, and not make it tomorrow or in the next week. You only
Mhm.
live now. If just
Mhm.
this moment where we are now, you can make this decision. We can't make future decisions because we don't have a clue what's going to happen. We don't even know what's going to happen in the next minute. But you have now to make this decision of, yo, do I really want to be Cinderella for the rest of my life? Or do I want to find my voice, reclaim my crown, and share it and help other women?
Mhm.
I don't know. I just get like,
No, I love what you're saying, and I feel like so I've always been the type of person who the better other people did, the more empowered I became to do better myself. But I was always surrounded by people who, for many years growing up, and who wanted me to do not as well because they wanted to do better. And to me, that's counterproductive and counterintuitive. It takes more energy, it makes people feel bad. And so I love what you're saying, bringing people together. Courage became my word of the year 3 years ago because somebody asked about a New Year's resolution. I said, I never do them because I always fail at them because I never finish them. And somebody said, what about a word? Well, courage has been my word. It's been my guiding word since 2020. While I was in burnout, I picked that word and it has evolved into this whole mind map. What you're describing is that coming from that place of authenticity. And yes, we're ordinary people. And I'm looking at my paper because I was writing notes as you were talking. We're ordinary people doing extraordinary things because we took the chance on ourselves to just give ourselves permission to be ourselves no matter what anybody else said about us. And that is, I feel that through my whole body right now. It's such a freeing thing to just release the shackling, release the layers, peel back the layers, like you were saying, right? Take off all that armor and just recognize that everyone's not for everyone, but those that we're meant to talk to that are going to resonate with our stories, they're going to get touched too. They might know it yet, they might not, they might. But I feel like you've touched my life in a way that had we not had this conversation, I wouldn't have a reminder of what it means to thrive, what keeps my self-worth in place, those boundaries. Every question you asked me, this is why I go on other people's podcasts, because it helps remind me of what I'm doing here and what I'm doing for the greater good of others, and to keep me grounded in that, and hopefully make new friends from across the world. And I feel like that's really where we got to today. You know, I love what you're doing. I celebrate you. People always ask me if I want to start a podcast, and I say absolutely not. It is, I just can't deal with all the factors of it and all the pieces. And I love how you're doing it. We're having the conversation, you'll post it, but it still feels like such a heavy lift for me. It's not what I do best and where I want to spend my time. But talking with others about it on their platform where they're happy to do it, it's okay that I don't want to do it. But in years past, I would have tried to create one just because, and it would never have felt right. It was never genuine. It was never truthful to me. And I know you know this, but our self-worth begins with us being true to ourselves and listening to that inner voice and that intuition.
Definitely. Some things, like I said to some of my clients, is I can give you all the resources, the tools that I've been trying out for the last 5 years. But it's your decision. If you like it, you like meditation, do it. If you like art therapy, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here to give you the resources, because I've tried it all. I don't want to say, oh no, I'm not gonna try affirmations, or no, I'm not gonna try this because it won't work. But to allow yourself to say, you know what, ego, go aside. I want to really find out if this is really something that I will love. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I love talking, like I love being on Facebook Lives. I love being on video camera. That is, but don't put me in a place, in a room full of people that I don't know. Then I am like an introvert. I'm like, I'm like, I don't. But here in this is my safe space, and I want women to have a safe space, even though if it's just in the toilet for that 10 minutes, knowing that this is a place where you can breathe, where you can be
Mm-hmm.
just you. And try everything. At least I said to my son, that's what I'm teaching him. Just try it. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
like it. You don't even have to do it again. But at least just try the broccoli. Just try this smoothie. Just try
The,
this sport.
the no thank you bites. I remember those. Just taste it. If you don't like it, you just say no thank you.
That's just what I want women to know, that each and every speaker that is on here, first of all, they are meant to be on this they are part of this mission. You are part of. It's a there's, oh, I truly believe that there's a reason for women that's coming into my life. There's a reason for women to be on this podcast. I just said, when I started this podcast 3 weeks ago, without any tools or anything, I just started it. I just said, Lord, lead the way. You sent me the woman that needs to be on this podcast, because we are the woman that is the first 100 women that is going to be the ripple effect for Speak Up Queen, to have to
Mhm.
change the world and to change to create safe spaces for women. So for every woman out there who is listening, and you find tools from one woman, and you might think, oh, that might not work for you, just try it out. Just listen, try it. If it doesn't work, it's a bucket list thing. Take it off. You've tried it, it doesn't feel right with you, because sometimes 5 years ago, I would have done everything to fit in. I would have done things even though my body was screaming, Marika, you don't like doing these things. Why are you? But I was suppressing my emotion. I was like, but I need to feel loved. I need to know that
Mhm.
someone will like me when I'm doing it. And now I'm like, if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. Because when you are healing, you're getting aligned with your body. You're starting to listen more to what your body is saying because your
Mhm.
body is the only one that's actually there to support you and knows what you're actually thinking. So just try everything, listen to everything, put your ego aside, and start today with your healing journey because, oh my word, Queen, you are so worth it. You are so worth knowing and becoming your authentic self and just living life to the fullest. Because so many women, even men, is on their dying beds at this moment wishing that they did something. And
Mhm.
society and limiting beliefs and the lack of boundaries and people pleasing stop them from living their life to the fullest. So let's just go out there and live life to the fullest because that's the only chance we have. We don't have any more. And yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been so fun. I've learned a lot about you, and you speak from your heart, and that's what's most important. There's boundaries to everything. We each have something to give. We all have a gift. We just need to figure out what it is. And I'd say I founded my business, Journey to Bloom, as a slightly different name. It was Bloom Special Education Advocacy in 2018. And then when I expanded it, right in burnout, right when I got my courage word and all of that to Journey to Bloom, this entire thing for me has been that journey to bloom. And it's a never ending, ever evolving journey. But until you choose as a woman to stop listening to the noise around you and trust your inner voice, nothing's really going to change. It really won't. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned through this whole thing is you can listen, you can say thank you to others, but again, no thank you. I appreciate your perspective. I'm going to continue to do things my way. And that's okay because you don't have to please everyone. You just have to be certain that you're pleasing yourself.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Lisha, for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your
Thank
story is a
you.
testament to strength, resilience, and courage it takes to not only heal, but to thrive. So, to everyone listening, remember that your voice matters, your story matters, and together we can inspire. If today's episode touched your heart, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. So, until next time, Queens, keep speaking up and stepping into your power.